Hi, my name is Matthew Okendo, and my film is 747 to Union. It's actually an episode of my web series LA Metro Project, which is basically short stories on trains and buses in LA. And this was the fifth episode, and it's basically two people who meet on a train station, and they spend the night together. We did it last December, and we made it because it's part of the web series. But it was an interesting story, and I kind of like the idea of a sort of a short film that takes place in like 3 hours of time. And then I won't spoil it, but and later in the film, it kind of comes back later to that very night. But it takes place in 3 hours in one night, and then 1 year later. Our web series it's really guerrilla filmmaking. So for the most part, it's kind of having to do many hats. I was the writer director, but I was also the DP and editor for this. So it's one of those kinds of things.
My name's Robert Daly. I'm starring in this film called Caregiver Wanted. I found this article called the Daily Mail. It was about the article about Macaulay Culkin's dad, about his retirement, and he also it was an interview about him, and he also suffered a stroke. Hire a couple of caretakers, and he said some pretty nasty things about his son, and I just have a thought, what it's like if I wrote a story about that. It was originally going to be as a full script, but I don't have enough budget for it, and so I decided to make it as a short film instead and put it as a one scene. To get to know about the characters and their emotions, and that's how it started.
My name is Hunter Silvestri, and I made Escargot. Escargot was a really weird piece of prose that I wrote in an IHOP at 4 a.m. and then promptly forgot about for about a year. And then I came back to it when I started to learn animation basics and thought that it was just weird enough of a piece of writing that it would work as a visual thing, but it could only work as animation. And so I basically took this one-credit animation class at my school just to do the project, nothing else. I had an advisor. We met once a week, and I worked on it day by day. And yeah, it wasn't, I think most of my experience as a film student is very much like the collaborative nature of film, but this was very much a project that I just kind of had to sit in a basement and make by myself with a bunch of paints and pens. And yeah, that's how it happened.
Hi, my name is Bishal Datta. I am the director, co-writer of Life in Color. This project started off in a very unromantic way. I had just made a movie in the desert, and I was like, never again, I'm making a movie in the house, sort of things. But my grandfather had gone through Alzheimer's and had passed away from it, and I was realizing that there weren't stories being told about Alzheimer's in a way that really respected the struggle that they were going through and made them active characters. And also thinking about the LGBTQ sort of crisis in that a lot of the men that were going through the stigmas of the AIDS crisis in the 80s are now of an age where they're going to have dementia and related diseases. So it was really all of these things coming together that created the genesis of this movie.
So my name's Joe Raffa. I'm here with Spades the Series, Episode 1. So this project started, it's just me and my roommate in our apartment. Had an idea, we wanted to create some content, so we came up with this anthology series, kind of like Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, but instead of each episode not connecting, the more episodes you watch, the more layers are added, and the more the episodes do start to connect. So a small character in Episode 1 might have an arc in Episode 5, and we thought, let's just build this world and build this brand and keep expanding on it. I think it'd be really fun. A lot of times people talk about budget, which is totally true, but I think it's time, right? So with budget comes time. And it's not necessarily money and equipment that's the asset. It's the time you have to be able to shoot, which is the asset. So ideally in a perfect world, you'd want to shoot, your 7-page scene across 4 days. But as an independent filmmaker, you have 4 hours, and you you got to get the coverage you need in a short amount of time. So I think that's the biggest challenge, but it's also the most fun, really. You know, you can challenge accepted. Let's go to work.
Hi, my name is Zoe Cantors. I was a producer, writer, and actor on the movie Up There.
My name is Daniel Weingarten, and I was a writer, director, producer, and actor in Up There.
So when I was a senior in high school, there was a shooting in my town, which affected me very much at that time, along with this small community that that it took place in. So I wanted to write something having to do with that, and not only how shootings affect communities, but also in a particular community where there is no mental health resources, really.
Really looking at all that and being like, what's a story that is relevant and to the time that is now? And I think now with this conversation surrounding gun violence and gun control, I think there's a lot of questions of, well, what can we do now, and specifically regarding guns, and there's a lot of focus as to like what happens to the people right when the event happens, but what happens when the news trucks leave? The people that suffered this event, they still have to continue to deal with what happened, and what happens 10 years later, and what happens when families are broken, and like you said, you know, when they don't have access to mental health services and they have to find ways to cope with it on their own. So those were just some of the questions that we set out to try to like dramatize and explore.